guys, so this is the third video I promised you comparing the variation tales of Beauty and the Beast. I had to take a couple days to really think about it, really search my heart of hearts. And so here we are. By the way, happy first day of Passover, guys. I'm not having my Seder until Thursday night, but hopefully by then I'll have my stuff together for it. Also, you may notice I have new glasses. My other glasses completely died. The lens is currently sitting outside of the rest of the glasses on my dining room table. So, we're back to the Army BCGs, my birth control glasses. So, in this video, we're going to, kind of compare and contrast the two Beauty and the Beast books that I read, As Old as Time and The Beast Within. It was really hard for me to come up with a decision which I liked more or less, and which one is better. But we'll kind of go through the comparison and come up with some sort of final word. So first off, the focus of the story. The Beast Within is definitely more backstory, and it definitely focuses more on the Beast, obviously, because it's the Beast Within, a tale of Beauty's Prince. It did have a lot of interesting takes, especially the one that stands out for me is the Beast and Gaston growing up as best friends. Like, that one kind of came out of left field. I wasn't expecting that one. As Old as Time is more following the movie until, that one moment that the entire story changes. The moment that Belle reaches out for the rose and it disintegrates in her hand. Then it kind of takes on its own, a life of its own. But it also deals with backstory, I feel, in a more subtle way, in that it alternates with the movie and present day. And it's still, I don't want to say entertaining, because what it talks about, ethnic cleansing and all that, isn't necessarily entertaining, but it's informative. And it adds a new layer to the story. We kind of talked about the Beast Within, obviously more emphasis on the Beast, and As Old as Time, I feel like there's more of an emphasis on Belle, especially her backstory, but it does give the Beast his due, and it does give him a voice to his frustrations and all the things that he missed out on and everything he's trying to cope with, trying to maintain his humanity even as the curse kind of becomes finalized. We kind of talked about the storyline in, I don't know, in terms of whether the storyline's intact, it was definitely, in terms of comparing it to the movie, the storyline was definitely more intact in The Beast Within. And obviously the As Old as Time was supposed to be a twisted tale, and it was, so, it definitely diverged from that, but I think it remained faithful to the spirit of the movie and who these characters were supposed to be. And again, I got my notes. So the Enchantress I thought was kind of interesting, because the Beast Within, it's an Enchantress and her 3 older sisters, which I thought was kind of funny. It's not necessarily funny, but it was kind of funny. Her 3 bigger sisters, sticking up for her and kind of wrecking things in a way. Whereas the Enchantress in As Old as Time was Belle's mom. And in both, I thought it was kind of cool that in both the Enchantress is a flawed figure. They have pride, they have Belle's mother is more rash than I think her name's Cecile. I should have written it down. The Enchantress in The Beast Within. Belle's mother is definitely more rash and more impulsive. She gets angry at something and she's out there swinging. She kind of reins it in a bit, but it really comes back to bite her. The Enchantress, the prince's former fiance in The Beast Within, I don't know necessarily that she's rash. She went back kind of hoping that the prince would change his mind, kind of redeem himself and, kind of prove that he's the better person. But even towards the end, you hear her say, I never intended for this to happen. So there's that concept of unintended consequences and, being short-sighted. You look at, okay, well, right now, here in this moment, he hurt me, he dumped me, I don't like him, he's a horrible person, I'm going to punish him. But she never really looked forward. And I don't know if that's because she didn't anticipate what her sisters were going to do and how much of an influence her sisters were going to have, or if it was just her own short-sightedness. I don't know. It could be either. But I felt like that was a common theme between the two books, is the short-sightedness in their actions as far as cursing the beast. Also, the difference in age for the beast between the books. It sounds to me, I don't think they actually ever give an actual number, but the beast was older when he was cursed in The Beast Within. He's had that chance to be engaged, prepare to be married and prepare to ascend the throne. Whereas in As Old as Time, the beast is only 11 when he's cursed, so he's still a child. He's a freaking brat, but he's still a child. So, that added something to each respective story. The prince in The Beast Within, he's had a chance to mature and kind of find what kind of man he's going to be, as he, prepares to take a queen and all that. And in As Old as Time, where he's 11, he definitely, you see that persistent immaturity. Roaring and throwing a fit when he doesn't get his way, and, when Belle refuses to come out of her room, and, that persistent immaturity really plays to him becoming the beast. And you see the struggle for him to maintain his humanity when for the past 10 years he hasn't necessarily had to. There was no one coming to the castle. People were forgetting about him. His staff were in the same boat as he, so, it wasn't like they could necessarily abandon him. But it added to his struggle, and it made his ability to come back from that precipice more extraordinary and more laudable. So I think in that regard, I think it worked better that the beast was younger, because it gave him a bigger mountain to scale, and it made his accomplishment that much more incredible. Oops, upside down. Between the two, we already kind of talked about this, so I was jumping ahead of my notes. The Enchantress looking at unintended consequences. So, all those things taken together, and then, you can look at writing style, and I talked about, especially in The Beast Within, it was kind of hard to get a feel for what the intended audience was supposed to be, like what reading level it was supposed to be. And not necessarily because of the terms or anything, but because of how things are put. at times, like I said in the other video, you could see where it was perhaps written for a fifth grader, a fifth grade fan of Beauty and the Beast. And then there's in the end where the witches are, yelling, rip out her throat. That's not necessarily something I would, expect my kids in fifth grade to be reading. So, very, very brutal. And the same could be said for As Old as Time, where you're getting into these discussions of ethnic cleansing. And then you could say, well, if you take issue with that, do you take issue with, the Holocaust being discussed? No, I don't, because first off, I'm Jewish. And second off, it's one of those periods in history you need to learn from. But as far as Disney goes, I'm not sure that Disney is who I would rely on to take up those discussions. And that's a topic for a whole other video for another time. I think between the two, what it really comes down to, who twisted it better. What it comes down to is, who would I rather read again? Which book would I rather send to a friend and be like, hey, give this a try? With my reputation on the line as a book lover. And I think at the end of the day, it's got to be As Old as Time. It had mediocre reviews on Goodreads. There were a lot of people who took issue with her previous work in this same vein. But I think, never having read the other two, just focusing on these two, I think this is the one that I would go back to. This is the one that I would read again. So who twisted it better? Liz Braswell. Congratulations. You twisted Beauty and the Beast better. Miss Valentino, you did a good job. You did a good job. You published first. You kind of set the tone for this. And in terms of a backstory, you did a good job. You definitely surprised me. You definitely, took a different take on it. And you brought in other fairy tales fairly well. It still feels a little weird to me, hey, go take this to Ursula. That still, strikes me as kind of weird, but you did a good job. Either of these books is worth reading, but if you're looking for one, you're only going to spend the money on one. As Old as Time. Hands down. So, that's my summary. That's the last video of this series. The next one I'm going to be taking on, a different work by John Boyne. Just finished it. It's pretty good, and I hope that you will like and subscribe to this channel so you can see more of my reviews. Hit the comments if you disagree with my final verdict on these books, if you have any suggestions for other books I may want to read, or if you just want to, give your own thoughts on the books. And until next time, readers, I look forward to hearing from you.